All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee to order. Take attendance. Alderwoman Rankine.
Present.
Alderman Jean-Francois. And Alderman Burr is not here, so, and Alderman Massey is absent, so.
Alderman Burr is sick, he's not coming.
Okay, so we have 3 out of 5, so we do have, because that's a quorum, right? Or no?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I invited the chief, I invited Alex Smith to the meeting. He's here? Okay, so they should be joining us shortly, but I'd like to kind of get started. Half hour goes quick. Maybe once they get here, we can ask them some questions. Two things I want to discuss. We got a request for a LoSAP increase and discussing the death benefit / and maybe insurance in light of the firefighter lost their life in Spring Valley recently. Just to guys bring you up to speed, I sent this in the email. LoSAP, we got a request to increase it from $700 to $1,200 per member per year. That'll be a $500 increase. They also asked to make it retroactive, so there's 2 things going on there. And then all this would probably have to go to the Board of Estimate eventually if it does make it through our committee. The program started in 2013, so you're looking at, I think, like 9 years on retroactive. In 2020, according to their treasurer, they had 36 firefighters who were able to receive LoSAP. If the numbers stay the same, that would be an increase of $18,000 a year annually. So I have some questions. How much would it cost to cover the retroactive payments, just so we could pass that on to the Board of Estimate? And if we support it, my question to Alex Smith is, if the committee decides to move forward with the increase, what would be the next step beyond the Board of Estimate if they approve it or not? Do we go to a local law? Is it a public referendum? I think originally it was passed by public referendum. I'm not sure if you have to do that for an increase. And then I have 2 emails there I sent you guys from Alderman Green and Sean Giroux from the Fire Department. So just go around the room real quick if we could just see what you guys are thinking. Alderwoman Rankine, how do you feel?
Retroactive, my initial reaction is no, we're not moving backwards on that. The numbers, they haven't really presented any real costs here, evaluation, just 700 to 1,200, what they're talking about in terms of budgetary expense. And the fact that the LoSAP numbers have remained steady and there's not been a drop off, I don't know that this is going to affect a huge change in membership. So while I'm willing to have the conversation, I don't think that's the basis for the change in the number. That's just my opinion.
Would you support increasing it?
Like I said, I'm not opposed to it. I'll have the conversation. I need to see a lot more data than just a figure thrown out on what you'd like them to get per month as a benefit. What that actually means in cost. I'm a no on the retro, though. It doesn't. That opens the door to a whole lot of other. We're not going to do that.
I haven't seen the numbers or any of the information on it. I'm not sure about the retro. I would almost certainly support an increase in LoSAP going forward. Anything we can do to help our volunteers within reason, I favor. We couldn't get by without them in Middletown. The retroactive, I'm not sure about. I'd have to hear more about that.
Yes, the only thing I was concerned about is the $500. What are we basing that on? Do we?
Right now, we contribute for the 36 members $700 a year annually. Mm-hmm. This would increase it to $1,200.
Okay.
Which would be an increase of $18,000 annually from what it is now.
Can I just speak to
Sure.
real quick? Just, so I have a little background on this with Chief McLean, who brought it to me, and I brought it to Sparrow. The state basically passed a law, I believe, or a resolution stating that prior maximums for this program were $700. They just increased the maximum allowed to 1,200. I believe it was either earlier this year or late last year. So the fire department's looking to get us to move to the new max
Gotcha.
to
Okay.
cover that.
All right, kind of makes sense.
My 2 cents, I mean, $18,000 in the city budget of, millions, I think is kind of a drop in the bucket for the folks that risk their lives to kind of protect us. And that, how much they save us in versus full-time, like Newburgh, a full-time fire department versus a part-time, basically a hybrid. I think $18,000 is really not a big deal for the folks that risk their lives. And this gives them a little bit of something in retirement for all the hours. It probably can't even make up the hours that they really spend serving the city. So for me, it doesn't seem like a big increase for 36 people. Maybe it gets up to 40 people, but seems something's helpful. Retro, I don't know about.
Especially it was since 2013. That was a long time. That's 9 years. I mean,
I think that in terms of retro, we'd have to see what the numbers were prior and really do a cost estimate on that before. I would feel comfortable saying anything about that. I get it with the increase. Currently, the $700 it accrues, but then you got to figure when they're done, you take taxes out of it. So some of these guys are, you're only bringing in maybe $450 or something like that. After all the taxes are said and done with it. So certainly an increase would definitely be welcome. I think that I think it's well deserved. And I think, the cost benefit for us to have volunteers far outweighs the minimal cost that this would be. But I'll defer to some of the numbers and the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Kind of following on Alderman Rams-Kasuma's thought, I don't think the incentive here is to get more people. I think the incentive is to say it was 700, now it's 1,200, so we had the max, let's have the max again. And actually, I'm good with that logic. But to me, that's the logic. The logic is we deserve the max before, we deserve the max now. Don't muddy the waters with, get more people or keep people. Because then you say, well, the 500 comes from the max. That's it. It's a very short answer. Retro, I am deathly allergic to retro. I will need an EpiPen if you do that. Just so you know, that is a very slippery slope, and we're going to break our ankles at the bottom for sure, promise. So no retro for me, thank you.
All right, so it sounds like there's support for the increase. Mayor, do you have an opinion on the LoSAP? Going to the max, or?
Well, as I said at the in the email,
Right.
that this is sort of backwards, that an initiative like this has to start at Board of Estimate.
Oh, okay, all right.
So it can't, there can be no vote by the full common council without a vote without it getting forwarded by the Board of Estimate. So I'd like to bring the chief in at the Board of Estimate meeting and talk to him about, the idea of recruitment. It doesn't look like, to me, like the creation of LoSAP even created enough of an incentive for people to, I don't think the department grew.
Right.
But I'd like to hear the logic. I don't mind rewarding them, but I'd rather do it under, with some facts on the table. So once, you guys are discussing it, and refer it to the Board of Estimate, and then we can bring the chief and the members of the department in and question them on it.
Okay.
We also, Alex, you said you did some research. Any changes might have to go to public
Yes,
referendum?
I don't know much about the program itself, but I did do some research yesterday on the procedural aspects, and it's pretty clear that any amendment of our program must not only get a 60% vote of the council, but must also go to a mandatory referendum. Very clear.
All right. I mean, I'm not sure about recruiting members, or just if they deserve it as a, thank you, and all the cost savings that the volunteers help us out with. Would you guys be in support of sending it to the Board of Estimate for their consideration? Okay. So, someone make a motion? All right. All in favor of sending the LoSAP request to the Board of Estimate for their consideration? Say aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Oh, abstained. Second thing I want to talk about was the death benefit. I did talk to the insurance company, and apparently there's already a state benefit for death benefit for volunteer firefighters. I believe it's a state law. And it was attached, I guess for a firefighter that dies in the line of service, it's $887 per week if death occurred before 1999. Okay, so 90, I'm reading the wrong spot. It says $887 per week if death occurred on or after July 1st, 1992, so that would be now. And then there's a maximum, and then it depends if the person is married or not, or remarried. I'm not sure if we want, does that sound fine, or do we want to get more, like, we're pursuing more than that, or is it, and I'll probably go to the Board of Estimate as well, but, yeah.
Volunteers, active duty death, I'll give you an example for like under, we had a volunteer fire police, gentleman in his 90s who passed away while working at the Paramount Theater, and he was entitled to active duty death. So we got to be careful about going beyond some of these programs. I mean, all of a sudden we're into costs that we're mirroring the like a paid department, and so there are state benefits as we have volunteer coverage, we have the workman's comp coverage. There is volunteer coverage. I'm not supportive of going off into our own beyond the state programs, but who's making the request?
No, we wanted to just check and see if they were covered.
Oh yeah, well they are covered, yeah, and they do have, they're covered under workman's comp also, and they have. But you can get from Greg that we have a separate policy for volunteers. But once you start carving out these things, and what happens with planning board, what happens with the zoning board, we have a lot of volunteers in the city.
Another slope.
So it's I know that the volunteer firefighting is a lot more dangerous, but what I'd be interested also is how many of the LoSAP recipients are actually firefighters certified to go into fires and fight fires. So where do we draw the line on volunteerism and reimbursements? So that would be my questions.
All right, so I think we're satisfied there.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right.
We have it.
So we passed it on to the Board of Estimate. We did a little research on the death benefit, and I'd like to, is there anything else from anybody? All right.
Just had a point of information. How did you vote on the motion?
I guess I am in favor of it.
Okay, I thought you said you abstained. I wasn't sure.
No, I said, did anybody abstain? No,
Gotcha.
I didn't
Thanks.
abstain. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to close. It's 7:15. Thank you.